What was your role in this investigation?
I work as a task force officer with the FBI, their Child Exploitation Task Force, and I work in our Criminal Investigations Division as a child abuse investigator working technology-facilitated crimes against children. And my role in this was to facilitate the operation and work investigations in the Plano area, my area of responsibility here in Plano, as well as facilitate with other law enforcement officers across North Texas in conducting this operation.
How surprised are you at the outcome?
Not very surprised.
Why is that?
I think with the advent of technology and the way that technology has proliferated in our society, material that's harmful to children or child exploitative material is becoming more and more prevalent just because of the ability for people to share this information back and forth electronically. And I think that we're a very technically savvy community, and people are sharing this material back and forth pretty regularly, unfortunately.
Jeff, can you kind of explain as much as you can about your role in this in terms of technology, in terms of investigative role?
Yeah, absolutely. So we work very closely with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, along with the North Texas Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, the FBI's Child Exploitation Task Force, and other law enforcement agencies across North Texas and nationally who investigate crimes against children that are committed using electronic means or using technology to facilitate these types of crimes. My job in this is to conduct investigations related to that as I receive them, both reactively and proactively, to protect children in our society. I think our society, our job as people in our society is to protect our children's innocence, and I think that my job here is to facilitate that happening.
Are you mostly doing some sort of forensic work on tracing, or are you posing undercover as somebody? I mean, can you give us some insight into that part of it? How are you arresting these people?
Absolutely. Many of these arrests resulted from leads that were generated through reporting to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children in their investigations, and then forwarding them to us, where we continued our both forensic and proactive investigations into these individuals. We work diligently on, as you mentioned, tracing where these offenders come from and how they are facilitating these. Our primary goal is to protect children, so we go at it from that aspect first, and then the ripple effect of that is we do catch people that are committing these types of offenses. So both forensically, reactively, and proactively, we go after these individuals who are exploiting our children.
What started this? Like, what was, because I know multiple agencies involved, but Plano and Dallas were kind of the two big ones in name. So what was the kind of jumping off point for this to turn into more than 50 people being arrested?
We've conducted this operation really for the last 7 years on a yearly basis. So we see an influx of these cases that come through, periodically, and when we detect that we are in need of an operation like this, then we spin one up and we get with the partner agencies across the Metroplex and across the North Texas and work together with them to build capacity so that we can investigate these. We bring in officers from other agencies to Plano to investigate these cases with us, to give us manpower and talent and training and skills that they possess through their agencies, and then we go to them and assist them with the same types of investigations. So it's a very much a team effort on the part of the investigators that relate to these types of crimes.
I know you said that you initiate these investigations for the missing and exploited children whenever reports are made to them. But back up a step. Who's reporting them to those people?
So many times with technology, the electronic service providers, the services that you might use on your cell phone or your computers detect contraband material on their servers, and they report that to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, who then forward that information to the affected law enforcement agencies, and we begin our investigations at that point.
Because by federal law, they're required. Facebook, websites, Google, all those kinds of places, they're all required by federal law to report it if they find it?
Correct.
Jeff, I'm curious, what goes through your mind when you see this?
Sadness, to be quite honest with you. To have that many individuals who are exploiting children in our communities, is a terrible thing. We want to make sure that our children are safe. It's our job, as I mentioned before, to protect those children. And it's certainly brings pride to me that we were able to bring a group of individuals, law enforcement officers together that are able to investigate these types of crime aggressively and get these, what I would consider some of the more egregious offenders in our society, off the streets.
What makes this, we hear this all the time, sometimes it's just one individual too. What makes this so unique?
I'm sorry, sir, I didn't understand.
What makes this so unique? You hear cases like this where it's just one individual arrested or two or three. What makes this so unique?
I believe it's just the cooperation amongst the agencies, where we all came together with the focus on going after these individuals, as opposed to onesie twosies, where we're, I'm investigating a case here, and Garland is over here, and Wiley is working this case. We all came together and worked collectively towards a common goal, which was to investigate these cases more aggressively than possible if we were doing it alone.
And seeing this many individuals at one time, that's got to be a big deal.
It is. It is a big deal.
Jeff, when you've done this for many years, you're considered one of the most accomplished people in this field. Why do you do this, and why do you keep doing it?
There is I believe that people that do this job have to be passionate about what they're doing, and we see the worst of society, the darkness in society, and to be able to shine a light into that darkness and rescue these children, I think, is hugely important. And I can't imagine doing another job where I would have as much impact in our society as I do at this job.
What age range are we talking about for the victims involved, children involved?
From infants to preteens to pubescent children.
And how does the family feel? I mean, how does the parents feel about you guys have these people in custody or in the investigation?
The parents of the victims. Our job as investigators and as multidisciplinary team members, we work closely with our children's advocacy centers across the Metroplex, and we try to bring safety and healing to these children who are involved in these cases. And so I think that nobody wants to hear that their child has been abused, but having the resources put to them and given to them and offered to them to hopefully bring those children to that healing process is important to them. So I think that they're grateful for our work. It's unfortunate that they were involved, but they're grateful for the efforts that we go to bring these offenders to justice.
What's the message that you want out?
That's a good question.
You can think about that for a second if you need to. Could you give me some context here on the what are the gentlemen here? What are they been arrested for, charged with exactly? And then the victims, what happens to them going forward?
So, first question is what were they arrested for, and there are different charges for each person. I would have to look at the list to determine.
But are we talking mostly they were sharing explicit photos of minors with their computer? They weren't meeting necessarily underage.
Some were.
Some were meeting. Some were actually interacting physically with underage girls.
That's correct.
Women, girls,
Children.
And then some were sharing images with their devices.
Yeah, it
Computer
ranges
devices.
in a range of offenses from the mere possession. I say mere possession, but the possession of contraband material, child exploitation material, through hands-on offenses. So anywhere in that range of offenses is what you're seeing here on the board.
And then when you say you rescued, the number of children you rescued in this operation, can you kind of take us through what does that look like? What do you mean you rescued them? Where did you find them? What condition were they in?
When we speak of rescue, we mean that we've hopefully stopped any future abuse to these children, whether these children outcried to us once the investigation started, whether they went to a children's advocacy center or a forensic interview and outcried to that interviewer. Whatever the case might be, our goal of rescuing children from future abuse is just that, to make sure that this doesn't continue happening to them and that they're safe in their homes and in their lives.
Yeah. And you mentioned how prevalent this is. Honestly, I've done this job for a long time, and it's been early 2000s. I probably did work with a police department, and it was in Vegas on their sex trafficking, sex crimes against children. and gave us a real behind the scenes. And at the time, they said, the internet kind of made it easier for them to find these people, but I didn't really feel like that was your answer. It made it help proliferate to such an extent it's impossible to.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with Las Vegas when they said that. What I think is it does make it easier, somewhat easier to find them, but it also makes it more readily available. Before you had a cell phone in your pocket, you had to walk to a phone. You could still make a phone call, but you had to walk somewhere to get to that phone. And now you have the internet in your pocket, and you can proliferate this type material across the world in an instant, as opposed to having to mail it, I guess I would say. But so yes, it does make it somewhat easier to find these individuals, but it also allows these individuals to share this information more readily.
And coming back to Josh's question, that I apologize for interrupting on that. We're going to show all these people's faces, whoever they are. Maybe everyone who knows them knows they're a scumbag. Maybe they're pretending to be a good person, and their life's going to get turned. What's your message to the public about how you're going to defend children against this sort
I
of
think
thing?
that all of the agencies involved share the same view on this, is that we're going to aggressively go after those who seek to exploit our children, and we're not going to stop. This is not the end of this. There's more warrants coming. There will be other operations like this. There will be other investigations that carry on, whether it's operational in nature like this one where we all come together, or whether we're doing these individually as an agency. We collaborate, we work together. We share information amongst law enforcement officers, whether it be from here to Garland or whether it be from here to Alaska. We're going to share that information and work together collaboratively to bring these offenders to justice and rescue these children from abuse.
Jeff, you've been a part of many of these investigations over the years. Is this a crime that's getting worse or getting better?
I struggle with that question, actually, because I don't know. I don't know if it's becoming a worse problem or if we're doing better at reporting and locating and reporting that information. So I don't know if it's are we doing a better job of identifying these individuals that we might not identify prior to, as you mentioned, technology coming about where we could do it, or is it that we are, or that it's getting worse? I don't actually know the answer to that. I think that we continue doing what we do, and we continue working hard towards the goal of rescuing these kids, and maybe it'll flesh out eventually.
Were all these people arrested in the state of Texas for each job to go?
We had help. There was. I'm thinking through. I know of at least one that was arrested outside the state of Texas in Alaska, and there may have been others. I don't recall off the top of my head other than the Alaska.
2 questions. Can you bullet point for us just some of the relationships between the victims and the suspects on this page here? Some of them were parents of the kids that were victimized, correct?
I don't think I'd be able to do that right now. I don't have that in front of me. And
okay. And can you? I mean, surely when we Google these people, we're going to come across a handful of them in positions of power in some way, shape, or form. People are going to wonder what's being done about that to notify the public or to notify those invested parties.
there were several people on the list that are in what I call positions of trust, whether that be some of the things you mentioned or not. But we have taken, as law enforcement agencies, and not just Plano PD, but other law enforcement agencies involved, have taken appropriate steps to notify those organizations of these arrests and of these victims, and they're well aware of what's going on.
I know you don't know the names specifically, but could you describe a type of position of trust? Are you talking about an educator? Are you talking about a religious person or a religious leader? If you could give a summary. I know you don't know the names, but
I got to be honest, I don't know if I can do that, and so that's not to cut you down like that.
Well, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.